and completely shift the power dynamic in your favor without ever raising your voice or trying to prove how smart you are. That you could outmaneuver even the most intelligent person in the room, not by knowing more facts or having more degrees, but by understanding something far more valuable: human psychology and the art of strategic thinking. Most people have this completely backwards. They think intelligence is about memorizing information, showing off their vocabulary, or demonstrating their expertise at every opportunity. But here's the reality that separates the truly powerful from everyone else. Outsmarting someone has almost nothing to do with what you know and everything to do with how deeply you understand people, including yourself. The most successful negotiators, leaders, and influential people in history weren't necessarily the smartest in the traditional sense. They were the most strategically aware. Here's what most people don't realize. The majority of individuals you encounter are operating on complete autopilot. They're reacting instead of responding, talking more than they're listening, and desperately trying to appear intelligent, respected, or powerful, without understanding that they're actually exposing their deepest insecurities and weaknesses with every word they speak. They're playing checkers while life is chess, and they don't even realize the game has changed. The truly strategic minds don't feel the need to dominate every conversation. They watch carefully, they listen intently, and they understand the profound power of silence so thick it makes others uncomfortable enough to reveal their true intentions. They never show all their cards because they understand that one perfectly timed move is infinitely more powerful than a dozen hasty reactions. They've mastered something that most people never even think about: the ability to remain calm and collected when everyone else is losing their composure. If you've ever walked away from an important conversation thinking, "I should have said this," or "I wish I had handled that differently," then what I'm about to share with you will fundamentally change how you approach every interaction for the rest of your life. This isn't about manipulation or deception. It's about understanding the psychological principles that govern human behavior and using that knowledge to navigate the world with unprecedented clarity and control. Rule 1. Master your internal world before you attempt to influence the external world. Before you ever think about outsmarting anyone else, you must first learn to outsmart yourself. This might sound counterintuitive, but it's the foundation that everything else builds upon. The real battlefield isn't in the boardroom, the courtroom, or across a negotiation table. It's in your own mind. If you can't control your emotions, your thoughts, and your reactions, then someone else will control them for you, and that puts you at a massive disadvantage before you even begin. Think about this carefully. Every single time you get triggered, every time you lose your temper, every time you become defensive, flustered, or offended, what you're actually doing is handing over complete control of the situation to another person. You're giving them the ability to pull your strings like a puppet master, and once they realize they can get a predictable reaction out of you, they've already won the psychological game. That's not power, that's vulnerability disguised as strength. True mental mastery means developing the ability to pause when every instinct in your body is screaming at you to explode. It means maintaining your composure when you're under intense pressure, when you're being challenged, when someone is deliberately trying to push you to your breaking point. You simply cannot outthink someone when your emotions are doing the thinking for you, and that's exactly what happens to most people in high-stakes situations. When you're emotionally hijacked, your judgment becomes clouded, your decision-making becomes impaired, and you start operating from a place of fear, anger, or ego rather than strategic clarity. The people who appear most powerful in any room aren't necessarily the most charismatic, the most confident, or even the most experienced. They're the ones who can maintain their psychological equilibrium no matter what chaos is happening around them. This level of mental discipline doesn't happen overnight. It comes from deliberate practice in small, everyday situations. When someone interrupts you, do you immediately snap back, or can you maintain your composure and respond with calm authority? When you feel the urge to correct someone or defend your ego, can you instead choose to remain silent, understanding that sometimes your silence speaks louder than any argument you could make? Every interaction you have is an opportunity to strengthen this crucial skill. The moment you allow someone to make you feel small, angry, or frustrated, you've already lost your strategic advantage. You're no longer leading the interaction, you're simply reacting to it. And people who want to manipulate or control you will study your emotional patterns, looking for the cracks in your armor because your emotional reactions are often the easiest things to exploit. Mental mastery also requires you to stop taking things personally. Most people walk through life with psychological wounds that are easily triggered, so when someone criticizes them, ignores them, or challenges their authority, it cuts straight to their core insecurities. But when you've done the internal work to understand your own worth and value, these external attacks lose their power to destabilize you. You become psychologically untouchable, not because you don't feel emotions, but because you don't allow temporary feelings to dictate permanent actions. The calmest person in any room is usually the one with the most control, and this isn't an accident. Elite performers, skilled negotiators, and experienced interrogators are all trained to regulate their breathing, observe rather than react, and maintain their composure regardless of external pressure. This doesn't come from natural talent, it comes from intentional preparation and consistent practice. Rule 2. Become a master of human psychology and nonverbal communication. People are constantly telling you exactly who they are without speaking a single word. But most individuals completely miss these crucial signals because they're too focused on what they want to say next. If you want to develop the ability to outsmart anyone, you can't just listen to their words. You need to become fluent in reading the signals they're sending through their body language, tone of voice, and behavioral patterns. Outsmarting people isn't about being louder, more aggressive, or more dominant. It's about being exponentially more aware of the subtle psychological dynamics at play. Human beings are creatures of habit, emotion, and ego, and they leak information constantly through micro-expressions, posture changes, voice inflection, eye movement patterns, and word choices. These aren't random behaviors, they're psychological signals that reveal what someone is really thinking and feeling beneath their conscious presentation. Every person you encounter, regardless of how guarded or sophisticated they might appear, has predictable patterns of behavior. Once you learn to recognize and interpret these patterns, you stop operating blindly in your interactions. You begin to see the psychological landscape of every conversation, understanding not just what people are saying, but why they're saying it and what they're trying to achieve. Let's start with the eyes, which are often called the windows to the soul, but are more accurately described as windows into someone's mental state. People can fake smiles, they can pretend to be confident, they can perform politeness, but the eyes rarely lie convincingly. Pay attention to the subtle flicker when someone is asked a direct question, the way their gaze shifts away when they're uncomfortable, the delayed blink that indicates processing, or the narrowing that happens just before they become defensive. When someone claims to be confident but their eyes repeatedly dart toward the floor, you're witnessing a performance, not genuine self-assurance. These moments of incongruence between what someone says and what their body reveals are invaluable sources of information about their true psychological state. Then there's the voice itself. Not just the words, but the tone, pace, and rhythm. Is their voice tight with tension? Are they speaking unusually quickly because they're nervous? Or unusually slowly because they're carefully calculating every word? Are they over-explaining simple points, which often indicates deception or insecurity? Are they leaving long pauses before answering straightforward questions, which might suggest they're constructing their response rather than recalling it? Most people only pay attention to communication when it's directed at them, but this is a massive mistake. You learn the most about someone's true character when they think they're not being observed. Watch how they treat service workers, how they interact with people they perceive as having less power, how they behave when they think no one important is watching. That's when the polished mask slips and you see the authentic person underneath. Reading people effectively isn't about making judgments or labeling someone as good or bad. It's about developing a deeper understanding of human psychology so you can navigate interactions with greater clarity and precision. If someone enters a room and immediately makes themselves appear larger, broad stance, loud voice, intense eye contact, they're likely trying to project dominance. But the crucial question is whether this is genuine confidence or a psychological mask covering deep insecurity. You won't find this answer by confronting them directly. Instead, you observe the details. What happens when someone with higher status enters the room? Do they maintain their dominant posture, or do they subtly shrink back? How do they handle situations where their authority is questioned? These behavioral patterns reveal far more than any words ever could. When it comes to deception, many people assume that liars avoid eye contact, but this isn't always accurate. A practiced deceiver might actually maintain excessive eye contact because they've been told that's what honest people do. However, they often overcompensate, creating unnaturally rigid eye contact that feels uncomfortable and inauthentic. Genuine eye contact is fluid and natural, moving organically rather than being locked in place. Your intuition processes information much faster than your conscious mind, so when something feels off about someone's behavior or story, trust that instinct. Your subconscious is picking up on inconsistencies and patterns